Hi, this is Katie from Katie Creations. Today we are going to do a beginner's tutorial for broomstick lace crochet. Now you can see here I already have a few rows worked and I have 12 single crochet worked across the top of here. This is the loop from my last single crochet. So say this was your base chain and then you worked your single crochets back across. You would pull up your first loop and this will count as your first loop for your broomstick lace, and you're going to place that on your knitting needle, your belting, your broomstick, whatever you are using to maintain your gauge. So with this counting as my first loop, and I have a total of 12 single crochet, I know I only have 11 more single crochet, or I'm sorry, I only have 11 more single crochet stitches to pull loops up in. So this first loop right here, this first stitch, I will not pull another loop up. Because that's where this loop comes from. So, also another thing, I never work my broomstick lace with my work laying flat on the table. It rolls around, it's not conducive for a quick project. Instead, I stand it up and I place the base of my knitting needle between my legs and I just hold it there between my legs. I find it works a lot faster. And you can watch me struggle with it as I have it on the table. So put it between your legs, it'll work a lot easier. So here we have this first single crochet. I'm going to work in both loops here. Yarn over, pull up a loop, place it on my knitting needle. There we go. And you're going to continue doing that. Insert your hook in both loops, yarn over, pull up your loop, place it on the knitting needle. And that's how you pull up your broomstick lace. Find your next stitch, yarn over, pull up the loop. And you're going to continue working that all the way across. I'm going to skip one stitch. Pretend like you're working a project and you skip a stitch. Not on purpose, you did it on accident, but I'm going to show you how you can easily correct your stitch count. So that way you don't have to rip out all those rows or one row. Sometimes I've got a pattern that has 253 loops that I have to pull up. So imagine if I realized one of my first loops was missing. It easily corrects the problem without having to redo all those broomsticks. Whenever you pull your loops up, make sure that you're keeping the tension all about the same. You don't want one really, really loose and the other one super tight. It won't help with your gauge won't be quite as neat. So, pull up a loop. Almost there. So let's see, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I skipped one, so that would be 11, so I have one more, my 12th loop to pull up. So there's my 12th loop, because I skipped that one on purpose. So there's my loops. Now I'm going to, your pattern will tell you to work them all off. I find that very cumbersome to try working them off as I crochet, so I like to take all my loops off of my hook right away. I'm not worried about my loops falling out or being pulled unless I actually pull them. If you're not comfortable with this, what you can do is you can round them all up, and if you have a lot of loops, put a stitch marker in there or a twist tie or something, or even just a piece of string just to kind of hold them secure so you don't lose them. So okay, here I have my loops. I'm going to pull up, put 3 loops on my hook, or however many the pattern calls for. I'm going to do 3 here, and I'm going to work yarn over, pull up my loop, chain 1, and that helps secure my loops. And now I'm going to work 3 single crochet in my loops. That signifies 1 single crochet for each loop, so that way I don't lose any stitches. I'm going to move on to my next set. Again, I'm not going to do the chain 1 on this time. I'm just going to work the single crochets in. That chain 1 is only done on that very first set of loops, unless your pattern otherwise specifies. And I'm going to, oh look, I've skipped a loop. So to get my stitch count back up, instead of working and pulling all these loops out and pulling up a loop in that skip stitch, I will work in these 2 loops, but I will do 3 single crochet. So that way my stitch count gets brought back up. Some patterns you may not be able to do this. You may have to go back and rip them out and work those loops up. For a simple scarf, the few hat projects I've done, it doesn't matter. Just get that stitch count back up. And there you go. You have your 12 single crochets. And you really can't, you can kind of tell if you're looking at it, but you really don't notice right off the bat that there's even a loop missing there. But I have my 12 single crochets. So there you go, and you're back to the beginning. So you'll just pull this loop up, put it back on your hook, and keep pulling your loops back across. Now something you can see here, that row of single crochet I did, or those loops I pulled up, I worked in both loops. Here, I worked just in the back loops. You will pull them up the exact same way, just you're only going through that back loop, not both loops like we did up there. So you can see there's a little bit of difference. I personally prefer this look whenever I'm working my patterns, but it is completely up to you. This is what the back of your work will look like. It creates a bit of a shelf. Whenever you go through there, you can see that's the top of your stitches. If you're working regular single crochet, those were the stitches you would have been working in. There you go. I hope you have found this tutorial helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Thanks.